The ship came down on a Tuesday afternoon. It was silver and shaped like a teardrop. It moved slowly through the clouds above Seoul. The sunlight made it glow like a second sun. People on the streets stopped walking. They looked up. They pointed. Some took out their phones. Some ran away. The ship did not attack. It did not make any sound. It just hung there in the sky, waiting. Within 1 hour, every television and radio station on Earth was showing the same thing. An alien stood inside the ship, speaking into a camera. The creature was tall and thin. It had 4 arms and skin the color of moonlight. Its eyes were like broken mirrors, catching light from every direction. "We are the Valari," the creature said. Its voice was calm and sad. "We come not as enemies. We come to give you a warning." In a small office in Seoul, Captain Do-yoon watched the broadcast on his computer. He was a military man, 40 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. He had seen many strange things in his life, but he had never seen anything like this. Lieutenant Yuna stood next to him. She was younger, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and quick hands. She was one of the best pilots in the Korean Space Command. "Is this real?" she asked. "It looks real," Do-hyun said quietly. On the screen, the alien continued to speak. "My name is Oren. I am an ambassador of the Valari people. We have traveled very far to reach your world. We have done this many times before, for many other species. We bring the same message to all of them." Oren paused. His broken mirror eyes seemed to look directly through the camera, into every home, every office, every bunker on Earth. "The devouring swarm is coming." The words hung in the air like smoke. "In 30 rotations of your planet, they will arrive. The swarm is not like us. They do not talk. They do not trade. They do not make peace. They only consume. They eat everything, ships, plants, people. They have done this for 1 million years." Do-hyun felt his blood go cold. "We have watched the swarm destroy 11,000 civilizations. Some were young, like you. Some were old and powerful. Some had weapons that could break moons. Some had shields that could stop stars. It did not matter. The swarm ate them all." Yuna sat down slowly. Her face was pale. "We come to you now so that you may prepare," Oren said. "Not to fight. Fighting is impossible. We come so that you may make peace with your gods, so that you may hold your families, so that you may save your songs and stories before the end." The broadcast ended. The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then alarms started ringing. Phones started buzzing. The world began to scream. 3 days later, the United Nations held an emergency meeting. Leaders from every country came together in one room. Generals and scientists filled the seats. Fear hung in the air like a thick fog. Ambassador Oren stood at the front of the room. He looked small compared to the humans around him, but his presence was heavy. When he spoke, everyone listened. "We understand that this news is difficult," Oren said. "Many species react with anger. Some react with sadness. Some do not believe us. This is normal." Secretary General Hyok stepped forward. He was an old man with white hair and a face lined by decades of hard work. His voice was steady, even though his hands shook slightly. "You say we cannot fight," Hyok said. "You say no one has ever survived. But you also say you have been watching for 1 million years. In all that time, has no one ever tried to resist?" Oren's mirror eyes flickered. "Many have tried. All have failed. Then perhaps they were not trying hard enough." A murmur went through the crowd. Some people nodded. Others looked shocked. Oren tilted his head. It was a strange movement, like a bird studying something it did not understand. "You misunderstand," the alien said carefully. The devouring swarm has destroyed species with technology far beyond yours. Species that had 10,000 years more time to develop. Species with fleets so large they blocked out the light of suns. They are all dead now. Nothing remains of them but dust. Hayok did not look away. And yet, here we are. Still talking about fighting. Why? Oren asked. The word was simple, but his voice carried genuine confusion. Why do you speak of resistance when resistance is impossible? Because, Hayok said slowly, we are human, and humans do not go quietly into the dark. The room erupted into noise. Some people cheered. Some argued. Some sat in silence, lost in thought. In the back of the room, Dohyun watched everything with careful eyes. Beside him, Yuna leaned close. They are scared, she whispered. The aliens, I mean. Not just of the swarm. Look at how Oren watches us. Dohyun nodded. He had noticed it too. When Oren looked at the human crowds, there was something in his broken mirror eyes. Something that went beyond pity or sadness. It was curiosity. Maybe even wonder. They have watched 11,000 species die, Dohyun said quietly. They expect us to cry, to pray, to accept our fate like all the others. But we are not doing that, Yuna said. No. Dohyun smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a soldier who knows what is coming. We are getting angry. We are making plans. We are refusing to give up. He watched as generals began shouting orders. Scientists pulled out tablets and started taking notes. Politicians made phone calls, their voices urgent and determined. They have never seen a species like us, Dohyun continued. A species that looks at death and says, not today. A species that has survived ice ages and plagues and world wars. A species that does not know how to surrender. Yuna looked at him. You think we can win? Dohyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he shook his head. I do not know if we can win, but I know we will fight. And I know that when we fight with everything we have. Every bullet, every bomb, every last breath. He turned to face her, his eyes hard with determination. The swarm has never faced anything like humanity. And by the time they understand what we are, it will be too late for them. Outside the building, the sun was setting over the city. The silver ship still hung in the sky, watching, waiting. And below it, humanity began to prepare for war. Dr. Yoonji had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes burned. Her hands shook from too much coffee. But she could not stop working. No one could. Every scientist on Earth was racing against time, and time was running out fast. The laboratory at Cased was filled with noise and light. Screens covered every wall. Some showed alien data files that the Valari had shared. Others showed designs for weapons that had never existed before. People ran back and forth, shouting numbers and equations at each other. Taisek, her young assistant, dropped a stack of papers on her desk. His face was pale with exhaustion. The numbers do not work, he said. Their shields are too strong. We cannot break them with anything we have. Eunji picked up the papers and looked at them. He was right. The swarm's organic armor could absorb nuclear explosions. Their biological weapons could melt steel. Their ships could repair themselves within minutes. Then we build something new, she said. With what? Taisek threw his hands up. We do not even understand half of this alien technology. We are like children trying to build a rocket with sticks and rocks. Eunji put down the papers. She looked at her assistant with tired but steady eyes. Do you know what humans are good at? She asked. Taisek shook his head. We are good at learning. We are good at adapting. And most of all, we are good at breaking things. She pointed at the alien data on the screens. They think their shields are perfect. They think their armor is unbreakable. But nothing is perfect. Nothing is unbreakable. We just have to find the cracks. She turned back to her work. After a moment, Tysick sat down beside her and started working too. Across the world, the same scene was happening everywhere. In America, engineers worked day and night to modify rockets. In Russia, old nuclear submarines were being cut apart and rebuilt into space vessels. In China, factories that once made cars were now making weapons. In Japan, robotics experts designed drones that could swarm like angry bees. Countries that had been enemies for decades suddenly became allies. Leaders who had threatened each other with war now shared their secrets freely. There was no time for old hatreds. There was only the swarm. On day 10, the international fleet began to take shape in orbit above Earth. It was not a pretty fleet. The ships were ugly and uneven, built from whatever materials were available. Cargo haulers had been fitted with missile launchers. Space stations had been given engines and shields. Some vessels were barely more than metal boxes with rockets attached, but they were ships, and they were ready to fight. Admiral Ji-won stood on the bridge at the flagship, the Baekdu. She was a small woman with gray hair and a face like carved stone. She had spent 30 years in the Navy, commanding vessels across every ocean on Earth. Now she commanded humanity's first space fleet. Status report, she said. Her tactical officer, Sang-woo, looked up from his console. He was young, maybe 25, with quick fingers and sharp eyes. We have 150 vessels ready, Admiral. Another 150 will be complete within the week. Weapons? Nuclear warheads, railguns, and plasma cannons. The plasma technology is new, based on the Valari data. We are still testing it. Ji-won nodded. She walked to the window and looked out at the fleet. So many ships. So many brave people. And it still might not be enough. The Valari think we are wasting our time, she said quietly. They think we should be writing our wills and saying goodbye to our families. Do you think they are right? Sang-woo asked. Ji-won turned to look at him. Her eyes were hard. I think the Valari have been watching species die for 1,000,000 years. They have forgotten what it means to fight. They have forgotten what it means to refuse to give up. She looked back at the fleet. We will remind them. On day 15, Ambassador Oren requested another meeting with the human leaders. This time, the meeting was held in a military bunker deep underground. Security was tight. Armed soldiers stood at every door. The humans were taking no chances. Oren entered the room slowly. He looked around at the generals and politicians with his broken mirror eyes. There was confusion in his gaze, and something that might have been fear. Your species confuses us, he admitted. Secretary General Hyok leaned forward in his chair. How so? We gave you the warning so that you could prepare your souls for death. We expected you to hold ceremonies, to preserve your history, to make peace with your end. Oren paused. Instead, you are building weapons. You are training soldiers. You are preparing for war. Yes, Hyok said simply. Why? The alien's voice cracked with frustration. Do you not understand? The swarm has destroyed civilizations with technology 10,000 years more advanced than yours. Species with weapons that could crack planets. Species with shields that could survive the death of stars. His four hands spread wide in a gesture of helplessness. They are all gone now. All dead. What makes you think you will be different? The room was silent for a long moment. Then Hyok stood up. He was old and tired, but when he spoke, his voice was strong. Let me tell you about humanity. Ambassador Oren. He walked slowly around the table, hands clasped behind his back. 60,000 years ago, we were weak creatures hiding in caves. The world was full of predators bigger and stronger than us. Lions, bears, wolves, They should have eaten us all." He stopped and looked at Oren. "But we did not die. We learned to make fire. We learned to make spears. We hunted the hunters. We killed the killers. And now those predators hide from us." Hayok continued walking. 20,000 years ago, an ice age covered our world. The cold should have killed us all. But we did not die. We made clothes from animal skins. We built shelters from ice and stone. We survived. He stopped again. 600 years ago, a plague killed half of our population. It should have destroyed our civilization. But we did not die. We learned. We adapted. We grew stronger. Hayok faced Oren directly. His eyes burned with a fire that the alien had never seen before. 100 years ago, we created weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We fought 2 wars that killed hundreds of millions of our own people. We should have wiped ourselves out. He leaned forward. But we did not. Because that is what humans do. We survive. We fight. We refuse to accept defeat, even when defeat is certain. Oren stared at him. The room was completely silent. "You say the swarm has destroyed 11,000 civilizations," Hayok continued. "You say they have never been stopped. You say resistance is impossible." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "But we do not believe in impossible. We never have." He straightened up and looked around at the other humans in the room. "We will fight the swarm. We will hit them with everything we have. And when our weapons run out, we will hit them with our fists. And when our fists break, we will hit them with our teeth." His voice rose. "Because that is who we are. That is what we do. And we would rather die fighting than live on our knees." Oren was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly he spoke. "You truly believe you can win?" Hayok smiled. It was a fierce smile, full of defiance. "No, Ambassador. We do not believe we can win. We simply refuse to lose." Outside the bunker, the sun was rising. And across the world, humanity kept preparing for the storm that was coming. The swarm arrived 2 days early. It came through a tear in space, a black wound that opened near the edge of the solar system. From that wound, darkness poured out like blood. Ships by the thousands, each one a nightmare of living flesh and bone. They moved together like a single creature, flowing through the void with terrible purpose. Admiral G1 watched them approach on the main screen of the Baekdu. Around her, the bridge crew worked in tense silence. The only sounds were the beeping of computers and the quiet hum of the ship's engines. "How many?" she asked. Sangwoo looked up from his console. His face was pale. "Over 5,000 ships, Admiral. Maybe more. Our sensors cannot count them all. 5,000. Humanity's fleet had 300 vessels. The numbers were not good, but Jiwon had fought bad odds before. She had been in battles where victory seemed impossible. And she had won. Not always. Not without cost. But enough times to know that numbers were not everything. "Open a fleet-wide channel," she ordered. "Channel open, Admiral." Ji-won took a deep breath. She thought about her crew. She thought about the other ships. She thought about the billions of people back on Earth, watching and waiting and hoping. Then she spoke. "All ships, this is Admiral Ji-won. The enemy is here. They are larger than us. They outnumber us. They have destroyed civilizations far more powerful than ours." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But they have never fought humans. They have never faced a species that crawled out of the mud and conquered a planet. They have never met a people who looked at extinction and said, 'Not today.' Across 300 bridges, crews stopped what they were doing. They listened. Our grandparents fought in World War II. They faced armies that threatened to destroy everything they loved. And they won. Our parents stood against nuclear annihilation during the Cold War. They stared into the face of total destruction. And they survived. Ji-won's voice grew stronger. Now it is our turn. The swarm thinks we are just another meal. Another weak species to be consumed and forgotten. They are wrong. They are so very wrong. She gripped the edge of her command chair. Today, we show them what humans are made of. Today, we teach them fear. All ships, prepare to engage. The channel closed. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then Sangu spoke. Admiral, the swarm fleet is accelerating toward us. They will be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Good. Ji-won sat down in her chair. Her face was calm, but her heart was pounding. All ships forward. Attack formation. The human fleet began to move from the Valari observation ship. Ambassador Oren watched with growing unease. They should be retreating, he said to his captain, Vel. They should be trying to escape. Why are they moving forward? Vel had no answer. In a million years of watching the swarm hunt, the Valari had seen many things. They had seen species run. They had seen species hide. They had seen species surrender. They had never seen a species attack. The two fleets met in the shadow of Neptune. The swarm struck first. Biological weapons fired across the void, glowing green with deadly energy. Human ships exploded. Metal burned. People died, but the humans did not break. Captain Do-yoon commanded a small destroyer called the Suwon. It was not a pretty ship. It was built from parts of 3 different vessels, held together with welding and prayer. But it was fast, and it had weapons. Evasive maneuvers. He shouted as green fire streaked past his ship. Return fire. The Suwon's railguns roared. Solid metal slugs shot across space at incredible speed. They hit a swarm ship, punching through its organic hull. The creature screamed without sound as it died. First blood to humanity. Around the Suwon. Other human ships were fighting the same battle. They were smaller than the swarm vessels. They were weaker. But they were fast, and they were clever, and they refused to die. Lieutenant Yuna flew her fighter through the chaos. She was part of Dragon Squadron, 20 pilots in modified fighters designed for speed and agility. Their job was simple. Get close to the swarm ships and hit their weak points. It was also extremely dangerous. Dragon 3, on your left. She shouted into her radio. A swarm tendril reached for one of her squad mates. The pilot dodged just in time, rolling his fighter sideways. Yuna fired her weapons, cutting the tendril in half. Thanks, Dragon Leader, the pilot gasped. Keep moving. Do not let them grab you. The fight was brutal. Human ships died. Fighters were crushed. People burned in the cold of space. But the swarm was taking losses too. Admiral Ji-won watched the battle from the Baekdu. Her ship was in the thick of the fighting, firing everything it had at the enemy. The deck shook with every impact. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the air. Status report. She demanded. We have lost 60 ships, Sangu said. His hands flew across his console, trying to keep track of the chaos. But the enemy has lost more than 300. Ji-won felt a spark of hope. They were winning. Against all odds, against all reason. They were winning. The swarm felt it too. For the first time in a million years, the swarm knew confusion. These small creatures were not running. They were not dying quietly. They were fighting back with a ferocity the swarm had never seen before. Worse, they were winning. A human ship rammed directly into a swarm cruiser. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire. Another human ship flew into the open mouth of a swarm beast, detonating its nuclear payload from the inside. The swarm did not understand sacrifice. It did not understand the idea of dying so that others might live. It had never faced an enemy willing to trade their lives for victory, and it was afraid. Admiral, Sang-woo shouted. The swarm is pulling back. Ji-won looked at the screen. He was right. The swarm ships were retreating, moving away from the human fleet. Not running exactly, but definitely pulling back, regrouping. They are retreating, she whispered. She could hardly believe it. The swarm is actually retreating. On the Valari observation ship, Aaron watched with wide eyes. Impossible, he said. The swarm has never retreated. In a million years, they have never retreated. But it was happening. The great devouring swarm, the terror of 11,000 civilizations, was pulling back from a species that had only left its own planet a few decades ago. Val looked at the tactical display. What do we do now? Aaron did not answer for a long moment. He stared at the human ships, many of them damaged, many of them burning, but all of them still fighting, still pushing forward. We watch, he said finally. We watch and we learn. Because something has changed today. Something important. On the back-do, Admiral Ji-won allowed herself one moment of relief. Just one. Then she straightened up and looked at her crew. Do not celebrate yet, she said. They are not gone. They are just regrouping. Preparing for another attack. What do we do? Sang-woo asked. Ji-won thought about it. The smart thing would be to pull back too. To repair their ships. To prepare for the next assault. But Ji-won was not interested in being smart. She was interested in winning. We follow them, she said. We keep hitting them. We do not give them time to rest, time to plan, time to adapt. She looked at her crew with fierce eyes. The swarm has been hunting for 1,000,000 years. Today, they learn what it feels like to be hunted. She opened the fleet-wide channel one more time. All ships, pursue the enemy. Do not let them escape. Today, we showed them that we can fight. Now we show them that we do not stop. The human fleet moved forward, chasing the monsters through the dark. The swarm fled to the edge of the solar system. They gathered near the Kuiper Belt, a dark and cold region filled with ice and rock. There, they stopped and waited. Thousands of organic ships clustered together like a swarm of insects, pulsing with angry light. They were not running away. They were thinking, adapting, planning. But humanity was not going to give them time. Commander, Do-hyun stood before the Earth Defense Council. The room was tense. On the walls, screens showed the position of the swarm fleet. Red dots filled the display, so many that they looked like a bloodstain on the map of space. The first battle was a victory, Do-hyun said. But it was only the first battle. The swarm is still out there, still dangerous. And they are learning. Council Chair Mireille leaned forward. She was a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a sharp mind. Before the invasion, she had been a diplomat. Now she was a war leader. What do you suggest, Commander? We attack, now, before they have time to adapt to our tactics. The room fell silent. People looked at each other with uncertain faces. You want us to attack a force that still outnumbers us by more than 10-1? Asked General Hwan. He was an old soldier, gray-haired and careful. With a fleet that is already damaged from the first battle. Yes, Do-hyun said simply. That is suicide. Maybe. Do-hyun turned to face the general directly. But waiting is also suicide. The swarm has survived for 1,000,000 years by adapting to every threat. Right now, they are studying our weapons, our tactics, our ships. Every hour wait, they grow stronger. Every hour we wait, our advantage disappears. Dr. Yoonji stepped forward. In her hands was a tablet filled with data. The commander is right, she said. My team has been analyzing the swarm's biology. They operate on a hive mind system. Individual ships are not truly independent. They are controlled by larger vessels, what we call hive nodes. She pulled up an image on the main screen. It showed 3 massive ships at the center of the swarm fleet. They were bigger than anything else, pulsing with strange energy. These are the nodes. There are 3 of them. They control the entire swarm, sending commands to every ship. If we destroy them, the swarm loses coordination. The ships become confused, disorganized. They would turn on each other or simply shut down. Myre studied the image. Can we reach them? They are at the center of the fleet, protected by thousands of other ships. It will not be easy, Yunji admitted, but it is possible. We have developed new weapons based on our analysis of swarm biology. Targeted energy pulses that disrupt their organic systems. Missiles that spread a special acid designed to eat through their armor. And if we fail? Asked another council member. Do-Yoon answered before Yunji could speak. If we fail, we die. But we were going to die anyway. At least this way, we die fighting. At least this way, we have a chance. The room was quiet. Myre looked around at the faces of the council. She saw fear. She saw doubt. But she also saw determination. We have spent our entire history being told what we cannot do, she said slowly. We cannot fly. We cannot go to the moon. We cannot survive. And every time we proved them wrong. She stood up. We will attack. We will take the fight to the enemy. And we will show the universe that humanity does not give up. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. 3 days later, the attack began. Admiral Jiwon had divided her remaining fleet into 3 strike groups. Each group had 1 target, a hive node. The plan was simple but dangerous. Hit hard, hit fast, and do not stop until the nodes were dead. Jiwon herself led the assault on the largest node. All ships, this is Admiral Jiwon. Remember your training. Remember your families. Remember that we are fighting for the survival of our species. She paused. It has been an honor to serve with all of you. Now let us make history. The fleet moved forward in complete silence. They had turned off all communications to avoid detection. Every pilot, every crew member, every soldier knew what they were facing. They went anyway. Lieutenant Yuna sat in the cockpit of her fighter. Around her, Dragon Squadron held formation. 20 pilots, 20 fighters, ready to fly into the heart of the enemy. Sergeant Yeho was on her wing. He was a good pilot, young and brave. Maybe a little too brave. Dragon Leader, he said over the private channel. This is probably a one-way trip, is it not? Yuna checked her weapons one more time. Probably. I thought so. Yeho was quiet for a moment. Any regrets? Yuna thought about her family back on Earth. Her mother, who had cried when she joined the military. Her father, who had been so proud. Her little brother, who wanted to be a pilot just like her. No regrets, she said finally. You? Only that I never got to try that new barbecue place in Seoul. Yeho laughed, but there was no humor in it. They said it was really good. Yuna smiled despite herself. If we survive, I will buy you dinner there. Deal. The swarm detected them when they were halfway there. The enemy ships began to move, rising to meet the human fleet like a wave of darkness. Green weapons fire lit up the void. Ships exploded. People died, but the humans kept coming. The Baekdu took a direct hit to its side. The ship shook violently. Fires broke out on 3 decks. Crew members screamed. Damage report. Jiwon shouted. Heavy damage to starboard hull, Sangu reported. His console was sparking, and there was blood on his face from a cut on his forehead. We are losing atmosphere in sections 12 through 15. Seal those sections. Keep us moving. Admiral, we cannot take many more hits like that. Then, we will have to make sure they do not get many more shots. Jiwon gripped her chair as the ship rocked again. All weapons. Concentrate fire on that cruiser blocking our path. Destroy it. The Baekdu's guns roared. The swarm cruiser tried to dodge, but it was too slow. The human weapons tore through its organic armor, ripping the creature apart. Ahead, the first hive node loomed large on the screen. Strike Group Alpha has reached their target, someone reported. They are engaging the first node. Ji-won allowed herself a brief moment of hope. And the other groups? Strike Group Beta is taking heavy fire, but still advancing. Strike Group Gamma has lost half their ships, but they are still fighting. Half their ships. So many dead. But they were still fighting. That was what mattered. Yuna led Dragon Squadron through a gap in the swarm defenses. Enemy ships tried to stop them, but the fighters were too fast, too agile. They wove through the chaos like needles through cloth. Target in sight. She called out. All dragons, attack pattern Delta. Hit them hard. The fighters dove toward the hive node. It was enormous, bigger than anything Yuna had ever seen. Its surface pulsed with sickly light, and tendrils of organic matter reached out toward them, but they did not stop. They fired everything they had. Missiles streaked toward the node. Plasma bolts burned holes in its flesh. The creature screamed without sound, a wave of psychic pain that made Yuna's head ache. Keep firing, she shouted. Do not stop. On the bridge of the Baekdu, Ji-won watched the battle unfold. The first node was burning. The second was under heavy attack. And her own target, the largest node of all, was directly ahead. All ships, she said calmly. This is the moment. Give me everything you have. The human fleet attacked with desperate fury. Ships that were already damaged pushed forward anyway. Crews with half their members dead kept fighting. Pilots with no weapons left rammed their vessels into the enemy. And finally, the third node began to burn. Ji-won watched as the massive creature shuddered and died. Around it, the swarm fleet began to fall apart. Ships that had moved with perfect coordination suddenly went wild, crashing into each other or flying off in random directions. The hive mind was dead. The swarm was broken. All ships, Ji-won said, her voice filled with exhaustion and triumph. The nodes are destroyed. The enemy is in chaos. Press the attack. Do not let a single one escape. Across the void, humanity's battered but victorious fleet moved forward. The hunt continued. The cleanup took 3 weeks. Without the hive nodes, the swarm was nothing. The ships that had moved with such terrible purpose now drifted aimlessly through space. Some crashed into asteroids. Some turned on each other, their simple minds unable to tell friend from enemy. Some simply stopped moving, floating like dead leaves in a pond. Humanity hunted them all. Every last swarm ship was tracked down and destroyed. It was not done out of cruelty. It was done out of necessity. The humans had learned something important in this war. Never leave an enemy alive if you can help it. Never give them a chance to recover. By the end of the 3rd week, there was nothing left of the devouring swarm, the creatures that had terrorized the galaxy. For 1,000,000 years were gone. Humanity had won. The celebration on Earth lasted for days. People danced in the streets. Strangers hugged each other. Fireworks lit up the sky in every city, on every continent. For the first time in months, people laughed without fear. Children played without their parents, watching the sky with worried eyes. But not everyone celebrated. Admiral Ji-won stood alone on the observation deck of the Baekdu. The ship was badly damaged, barely able to fly. Half her crew was dead. The other half was exhausted beyond measure, but they had survived. They had won. Sang-woo found her there, staring out at the stars. Admiral, everyone is waiting for you. The victory ceremony. Ji-won did not turn around. I will be there soon. Sang-woo was quiet for a moment. Then he walked over to stand beside her. What are you thinking about? He asked. Ji-won sighed. I am thinking about all the people who did not make it. All the ships we lost. All the families who will never see their loved ones again. They died as heroes? Yes. Ji-won finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were tired but proud. They did. Every single one of them. And we must never forget that. This victory was bought with their blood. She straightened her uniform and walked toward the door. Come, let us go thank the living. And remember the dead. 3 months after the battle, Ambassador Urin requested a meeting with the Earth Defense Council. He came alone this time, without guards or escorts. The humans led him into the council chamber with wary respect. They were not afraid of him anymore, but they remembered that he had come to warn them. That counted for something. Myri sat at the head of the table. Around her were the heroes of the war. Admiral Ji-won, Commander Do-yoon, Lieutenant Yuna, Dr. Yoonji, and many others. They watched as Orin entered the room. The alien moved slowly, carefully. His broken mirror eyes swept across the human faces, seeing them in a new way. We came to you with a warning, Orin said. His voice was soft, almost humble. We told you that the swarm was coming. We told you that resistance was impossible. We expected you to accept your fate, as so many others had done. He paused. We were wrong. The humans said nothing. They waited. In 1,000,000 years, my people have watched 11,000 civilizations fall to the swarm. Some were older than you can imagine. Some had technology that would seem like magic to your scientists. All of them died. Orin's 4 hands spread wide in a gesture of wonder. And then you came. A young species. A violent species. A species that we thought was too primitive to pose any threat. His eyes fixed on Myri. And you did what no one else could do. You fought. You won. You destroyed the devouring swarm. Do-hin leaned forward. Why are you here, Ambassador? To congratulate us? No. Orin shook his head. I am here to report to you. My people are part of a larger organization called the Galactic Concord. We are a collection of species who have survived by hiding, by running, by staying out of the way of the great predators. He looked around the room. The swarm was the greatest of those predators. The apex hunters of the galaxy. The top of the food chain. For 1,000,000 years, they ate everything in their path. No one could stop them. No one could even slow them down. Orin's voice dropped to almost a whisper. And you killed them. All of them. In less than a month. The room was silent. I must report to the Concord that the apex predators of the galaxy are extinct, Orin continued. I must tell them that a new species has risen. A species that does not run. A species that does not hide. A species that looks at monsters and sees prey. He took a deep breath. I must tell them that humanity has taken the swarm's place. That you are now the apex predators of the galaxy. Yuna spoke for the first time. We are not predators. We do not hunt innocent species. We only defend ourselves. Orin tilted his head, studying her with curious eyes. That is what makes you dangerous. The swarm killed because it was hungry. It was mindless, driven by simple instinct. But you, he looked around at all of them. You are not mindless. You can choose when to fight and when to show mercy. You can be kind and gentle one moment and absolutely terrifying the next. He turned to face Myri directly. The Concord does not know what to do with you. Some are afraid. They think you will become the new monsters, conquering and destroying like the swarm did. Others are hopeful. They think you might be the protectors the galaxy has always needed. Myri stood up slowly. She walked around the table until she was standing directly in front of Orin. Tell your Concord this, she said. We did not ask for this war. We did not want it. We only wanted to live in peace on our little blue world. She leaned forward, her eyes hard. But when the monsters came, we did what we had to do. We fought. We bled. We died. And in the end, we won. Her voice softened slightly. We are not interested in conquest. We are not interested in ruling the galaxy. But we are also not going to stand by while innocent species are threatened. She straightened up. Tell your Concord that humanity will not hunt the weak, but we will hunt those who do. Tell them that the galaxy has a new guardian now. And tell them, she smiled. It was a fierce smile, full of pride and warning. Tell them to be kind to each other. Because if we ever find a species that treats others the way the swarm treated us, we will do to them what we did to the swarm. Orange stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he bowed his head. I will tell them, he said. I suspect many will not believe me. They will think I am exaggerating. They will think no species could be as strange and wonderful and terrifying as I describe. He looked up, and for the first time, something like a smile crossed his alien face. They will learn. The galaxy will learn. Humanity is here now, and nothing will ever be the same. Outside the council chamber, the sun was setting over a rebuilt city. Children played in the parks. Families shared meals together. Couples walked hand in hand through streets that had once been filled with panic and fear. On a hill overlooking the city, a new monument stood. It was made of stone and steel, shaped like a flame reaching toward the sky. On its base were the names of every human who had died in the war. Thousands and thousands of names, carved in granite. Lieutenant Yuna stood before the monument, reading the names. She found Yeho's name near the bottom. Her friend, her wingman, who had joked about barbecue before flying into battle. She touched his name gently. We did it, she whispered. We won. I hope you are proud. The wind blew softly, carrying the sounds of laughter from the city below. Yuna smiled through her tears. Rest now, she said. You have earned it. All of you have. She turned and walked back toward the city. Above her, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, 11,000 dead civilizations watched in silence. They had all fallen to the swarm. They had all given up. They had all accepted their fate. But humanity had refused. Humanity had fought. Humanity had won. And now humanity would make sure it never happened again. Not to them. Not to anyone. The apex predators were gone. New guardians had taken their place. And the galaxy would never be the same.